You are listening to a podcast by the Little School of Happiness. My name is Sandra Hayes and I'm your host. Here you will find episodes on all the Vedic teachings like yoga, Ayurveda and Vedic Astrology. For more information about me and my offerings, please go to sandrahayes.eu, or if you're in Germany, sandrahayes.de. Hi, Aoife. It's been a while now.
I'm so excited to be back.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you in front of me on the screen here again. And
I had no one to talk Vedic astrology with. It was very dull.
And there was so much to talk about, wasn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing what's been going on in the planets, these days. And so, yeah, I'm really, really happy to talk to someone about that as well. Yeah, because
it's very reassuring because before we started recording, we've had quite the conversation about our lives at the moment. And if you're listening to this, around the time of these transits, you're going to certainly be feeling these yourselves as well. So it's reassuring to speak to other people because, of course, you meet people every day and they have their exterior, they're coming across like they have their stuff together and everything's fine. Social media does not look great, but we all know that beneath the mask
there is a lot of turmoil sometimes. Yeah, that's very true. And I'm sure you have that as well, for you and for me, that are, when we're looking at so many different charts, and we see that all the time, people come and it seems on the surface, it seems all nice and wonderful, but there is so much depth to everyone, and not just turmoil, but a lot of beautiful gifts as well. And it's so interesting to see as well when something is just asking, to change and to crack open. I just had a beautiful chart last night, actually, as well, where it was all about, breaking free from old patterns. And I think this is something that's going on for a lot of people probably right now, some really big transformations now that are happening.
Yeah, the big planets have moved very recently or are moving very recently, which is always an opportunity for transformation, as difficult as it can be. I mean, certainly I know that because with my Scorpio moon, I find it very hard to let things go. And we can really hold on to old situations and old circumstance. Yeah. And the yoga teachings talk about this all the time. They have ownership over you because you can't let them go. And I think what we were discussing before this as well is that, yeah, you can talk about these things all day. You can see them in your chart, but you can't spiritually bypass exactly the situations that present themselves. And you can have the keys to this information and think, oh, well, if that happened to me, this is how I would react. But we have to experience it. We have to go through it.
Absolutely. And that's so important. And especially, when we are yoga teachers or yoga practitioners or practitioners of any kind of spirituality, which is great. And it's important to keep us nourished and to keep us strong, but it isn't the practice. It's just a support for the real spiritual practice. And that real practice is life, and it's not happening any other way. So I was just saying to you earlier, we can, sit in meditation on our meditation cushion as long as we want, or we can jump around on the mat or do whatever we like. It's not going to really get to the real stuff inside of us. It's only going to help us cope with what happens when we do get to it.
We have to be in the world. We have to be in the world. We from the Vedic perspective, chose to come into this life to experience the people that we meet, the family that we have. We didn't become a monk, we didn't remove ourselves from the external world. So this is our work, certainly.
It is, for sure. Yeah, and we can feel the shifts, can't we? Shall we have a look at a few things that are happening at the moment? So just quite recently, Venus, for example, moved. And Venus, I think it was May 31st, was it?
Yeah, so Venus moved into Aries on May 31st.
Yeah.
And Venus will be there until the 29th of June.
The end of June, yeah.
Year.
And the thing about this crossing is that before Aries, Venus was in Pisces, and Pisces is Venus's favorite place. And Venus is exalted in Pisces, and Venus feels great and wonderful, and it's in its element, and it's in beautiful water, boundless love, and beauty and creativity. And now it's in a fire sign, so it's actually crossed that water fire Gandanta crossing as well, that boundary between the dualities, and it's now in Aries in the fire sign. And I certainly felt that rush, that burning.
I think the world has felt that rush. Yeah. Pisces is, this beautiful spiritual place, and Venus, it's about beauty. Venus is about love, and raised to its highest potential. That's divine truth. Yeah. But Venus is also about, desire and passion. And what I've learned from Jyotish is that kama, or desire, is a legitimate aim of life. It is one of the legitimate aims of life. What brings you joy? But when you have Venus in this fire sign, it really is intensified desire, isn't it? It's like igniting a flame. And of course, we're talking about transits here, which are called Gokara in Sanskrit. And we can generalize this because I think people are really feeling this inner fire. Where it will happen in your life is really determined by the particular house that this is happening in.
Exactly.
And how these planets are reflected onto your birth chart.
Yeah.
So you could be feeling it particularly intensely, for example, because maybe Venus is your Lord, or maybe you're having a Venus return. So
Venus Dasha.
Venus Dasha, all the Venus. But what I like to think about, and what I'm trying to work with here in terms of the intensity of this desire, this passion, it's unruly, it's like impulsive almost, isn't it? It's very fiery. Is that it can be the impetus for radical self-love too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what's happening for me right now, because I am actually in Venus Dasha, and I have an exalted Venus in Pisces in my chart. So it was a Venus return for me. And Venus in Pisces is, among other things, it's actually very, it's all about harmony and unconditional love and beauty. So it is very, it has a longing for harmony, and it doesn't like conflict. However, when Venus crosses that ocean and gets into the not very diplomatic areas, then things can burst up to the surface that have maybe before been suppressed. Things that during the time when Venus was in Pisces that we might have maybe not allowed to come out because of a fear of conflict or something like that. It's possible that all of a sudden it will come out. And for me, I certainly noticed I'm not as patient, and I'm not, I'm quite very protective of myself and of my own boundaries as well, which I haven't really been before. So that obviously can be quite, it's not, it can be a little bit destructive in some ways, but at the same time, maybe necessary as well. So there's always two sides to these things. And Venus in Aries, it's really quick as well. It's really, quick tempered. And for me, this happens in the 10th house. So Venus is now in Aries in my 10th house. And it's all about work. And I do feel that for me, I have right now at the moment, I have a little bit of a pull between my work and my relationship. And I feel that very strongly. So that's very interesting for me. And it's the suddenness of it as well. But that's in my personal chart and personal life, but also on the world stage, I think this could really be happening, the kind of what was suppressed before might come out to the surface for people now.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't want to frighten people with predictions here. This really isn't about looking into a crystal ball, but sometimes the energy sets the scene for something that could potentially happen. And of course, what we also are going to experience very soon is Mars is going to move into Leo. So even if you don't know anything about astrology, fiery, Leo is fiery, it's the lion, you probably have an idea of that already. And Mars is the commander in chief. And when they come together, it is highly explosive. And they're coming together in a fire sign, whilst we have this activity of Venus in Aries. So, passions and yes, yeah. So passions ignited on a world stage, can be very destructive.
Yeah. But destructive, it's destructive also means shedding things that are not necessary anymore, that are not needed anymore, or that have become toxic or would otherwise become toxic if they're not shed. So destruction, I think, isn't always a bad thing. It's just a matter of how it happens. And maybe also how much we have a resistance against it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. But I suppose it does offer opportunities for potential change. But I don't know if you've experienced this recently, but there's a lot of agitation in people. There's a lot of anger. And, this can be the impulsiveness of this fire energy.
What I've also noticed around me, though, in people is that people who have been stalling for a long time and have not been courageous enough to do something about a decision, all of a sudden feel like they need to get into action. Yes. They have the courage now. That's what I've noticed as well.
Yeah, certainly. And there is the side of Venus that is this beautiful creativity, and this ability to make things manifest, to realize things. I mean, it is, of course, the planet of the creative, and there is an opportunity here as well, really, to step back and look at what you want to create in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing coming together, the planets of creation and the planets of destruction and letting go as well. And together, because both is necessary, isn't it? Like if you want to create something new, we do have to first let go of old structures. And we have to have the courage to do that as well. So
we have to, and be objective enough as well, I think, and this is where the meditation and the yoga practice really helps to give a little bit more insight, because this fire, it can be channeled. So diffuse fires is destructive, right? It's out of control. It's raging. Whereas if you can be very clear about your intent, and keep yourself clear, through different practices, you can harness that energy and direct it very intentionally.
Absolutely.
that's where real change happens.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that can frighten the people around you, right?
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And Venus is right now I've just earlier today, I've done a chart for this day in Germany. So Venus right now, it's in Ashwini nakshatra, and that means soon enough. Ashwini is quick as well. It's it's the first nakshatra, which is ruled by Ketu, and Mars is also coming together with Ketu. Mars, who is the ruler of Aries, where Venus is coming together, is meeting Ketu in Leo. So there's a real coming together of those energies, and especially Mars and Ketu. That's been talked about a lot now, I think, among astrologers. That
well, we know why, right? Because a certain person who is the president of the United States, his ascendant is Leo, and Mars is coming into his ascendant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Mars and Ketu. Yeah. That could be very interesting things happening. All right, I don't know enough about politics to have any opinion about what could possibly happen.
No, I think that's a good stance to take.
Yeah. I think I'm quite happy about that right now as well.
But despite it all, I think we can really feel this dynamic energy, right? I mean, I just feel this restlessness, this energy, and this can only bring change, right? This can only bring change. And all of our practices, all of the philosophies are about the transience of things and the importance of just letting go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's with this combination of Mars and Ketu, it's like Mars is the warrior and Ketu is the spiritual one. And it's like the karmic warrior. It's like a spiritual warrior. And on a positive note, when the two of them come together, this is really good. There is some real aim for spiritual liberation and real courage for it as well, and energy for it, which is really good.
And what I've been considering as well is the movement of Venus from Pisces, in this place of it's dreamy love, really, isn't it? It's very diffuse, and it's the rose tinted glasses, into Aries, which is this really strong passion. But where does she go next? So I always say Venus is she goes into Taurus. And of course, Taurus is about devotion. It's grounded love. And yes, that can be devotion to the divine, but it can be devotion to a partner as well. So perhaps within that transience, there is something being born that will become stable past this time of intensity and turmoil. Something can really long-term maybe and steady and stable can come from that.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you're pointing out what comes next, because when any planet, or Venus in this case, travels through a fire sign, it's like it's being purified, and then it emerges in a purer state in the next sign. So that's always a really good thing to look at as well, especially when a planet goes through a difficult or seemingly difficult sign, because it's not all that it seems sometimes. The next nakshatra as well for Venus, which I'm not quite sure when it will be there, but quite soon will be in Bharani nakshatra, which is the rebirth. It's death and rebirth. It's the symbol for it is the yoni, and it's the god of death, Yama, is the deity for it. So something will happen during that time. Something is being created during that time, and that's a really beautiful thing as well. And also that nakshatra is ruled by Venus as well, so it's another strengthening aspect for it.
Yeah, and it's worth considering that in the 12 houses, that Leo is the king, and or because it's ruled by the sun. There's something very regal about this process, and the king can rule, as we talked about in terms of Surya in the podcast we did, in a very giving way, or it can be very volatile, and you can really feel that we're coming to a real kind of crossroads here in terms of leadership, and who we follow, why we follow, and who has power. And there's something of the message of the king in that. And we'll probably look back in time and think that this was quite a pivotal part of our history.
Very much. I think so too. Yeah, very much so. And it's been coming for a while, even in the planets. You could see that, all the planets just a while ago, all the planets in Pisces together, all in one sign. And now they're kind of spreading out again. And it's pointing toward a real different kind of cycle that's starting now. So, because they're all starting again, they're all started again in Aries, which is the starting point, and now they're spreading out and slowly doing their thing and creating new energies. And it's a very interesting, and also another very interesting transit, I think, is that exchange between Rahu and Saturn. Saturn has moved from Aquarius into Pisces, and Rahu has moved from Pisces into Aquarius. And Rahu in Aquarius is a very interesting thing as well in these times that we're in right now, because he's for one, it's obviously all about these new technologies, and AI is really I think going to really spread very much. And even I have started to use some features. I've kind of, I thought, oh no, this is not for me. But then I discovered a lot of things that you can actually do with it that are really helpful. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
I can see that. I can see, because you were telling me about it, and I've really been admiring your posts and the work you're doing.
I've realized its limits as well, though, because in my study, for example, I thought that I could use it, to put me together some nice tables about, the things in psychotherapy that I'm studying right now, to memorize things. But then I realized it actually makes a lot of mistakes. So that's not, you have to be careful with it. You can't use it for everything. But at the same time, it is quite fascinating because it is a collection of the reflection of human intelligence. And that is fascinating, And with Rahu in Aquarius, this can really, possibility is that this can really be used not just for, the rich to become richer, but actually for the people. To do things for the people, because there are really good uses, and I'm studying psychotherapy at the moment, and I've tried this before. That when someone, for example, has a problem or a depression or has a psychological problem, and he or she talks to his whatever it is, Chat GPT. If it's a well-programmed version, then it can actually be helpful, and it's not that it substitutes for a human being, but it can actually really be very helpful in terms of giving good advice. And so I've talked to a few people now who felt that this is really, really saving them in some way. So there are a lot of good things about that too, and that's the positive side. I mean, there's a lot of negative sides as well if we abuse it, or if some programs are not done right, and then we can have bad advice or disasters happening. That's possible too. Just like, in the internet, there's the dark web as well. There's always a little dark spot everywhere. But in the positive sense, there's a lot of potential there too.
Yeah. And of course, Aquarius is humanitarian.
Yeah, exactly. It's for the people.
It's for the people. And Rahu is futuristic. It's innovative. So yeah, that potential is there. And I think what needs to, the conversation really is, okay, we have this now, but can we put safety, make it safe now before it exponentially grows?
Yeah.
Because there's so much potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be really important. But also what I believe is going to happen after some time of this is that we will realize, because we tend to learn through comparison and dualities and opposites, is that what actually makes us human, with all this, access to intelligence, which is amazing and great, but it doesn't substitute for real human intuition and human warmth and human creativity. And we will notice the difference. We will really, over time, I think, notice what it is that it's really lacking and what it is that makes us important as human beings, really. And that, I think, is another side to it as well.
And I think that's what's really special about doing readings. And I'd always prefer to do them in person, as opposed to online, irrespective of AI. Because it's the beauty of this is it's through the lens of our consciousness.
Yeah.
That we are interpreting what we see. And I think we've talked about this before. You could go to different Jyotishis and get different interpretations of the same information. And it's like when I train yoga teachers, I could just give them the manual and they could intellectually learn how to teach yoga. But it's not, it's experiential. They have to understand it from the inside, and that is what is expressed. Their own practice. So we have our own practices. I don't think AI is advanced enough to have its own sadhana yet,
No.
Maybe.
Not yet,
maybe. But I remember because I'm a teacher in further education, this has been talked about for a long time. How are we going to deal with this in terms of assignments, etc.? And then we, really what we've come to is, firstly, well, actually us teachers can use it as well, which is really helpful. And if, maybe we'll just approach it differently. Maybe we let people use AI for certain things, but they have to present their work and they have to explain to us, why you created this piece or why you decided on this. So
exactly, that's it. So the written word doesn't remain the focus. It's just a support to the real action that people take. So
yeah, but I think also the thing about Aquarius is it's rebellious.
Yeah,
it's about rebellion as well. And that's so that's. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, no.
It's something to consider, isn't it?
You were just cut off for just a second. Was something
okay
in the connection, but I think it's fine now.
Perfect. That contradiction or that balance between humanitarian and rebellious is an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's really another point as well of the Rahu Ketu axis between this, rebellious Aquarian and the king, the authority of the king, but also between the artificial intelligence and the technology and the futuristic aspects of it, and the personality, the soul, the son of Leo. Where Ketu is, which is liberation. So we will find our liberation in that, in the real expression, creative expression of ourselves, rather than our, futuristic AI intelligence. Even though that's helpful and handy, but it's just a support for us and not the other way around.
Yeah, because ultimately it's inner liberation. I mean, it's spiritual liberation. This is moksha. This is what Jyotish is pointing to. It's that inner freedom.
Yeah.
So, we can't be caught in the binds of anything in the external world if we're free.
Yeah.
And we're liberated, and that's the journey.
Yeah.
Of perhaps many lifetimes. But there's something else that's happening too that really is adding confluence to what you talked about there with Rahu in Aquarius, and that's Jupiter in Gemini.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really interesting one as well. Yeah. And Jupiter expands everything as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he expands everything. I mean, he's the most benefic planet. It's all about being magnanimous and optimistic, and he's the guru, he's the teacher, and to move into this airy space, it's quite different from where he was grounded in Taurus. And the reason I'm saying there's confluence between what we talked about, AI, and it's to do with communication. Gemini is to do with the intellect and communication owned by Mercury.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a play here, because a little bit of uncomfortableness, because there's something very methodical about the intellect of Mercury, whether Jupiter is very expansive and thinking outside the box. It's like these two ways of thinking coming together, which is could make for some change.
You know what? Jupiter is about truth as well. And I really think that, it's expansion and explosion, maybe, and kind of a massive growth of all this, AI things and media. But also, I think that there is a real growing of or an interest in truth and in open dialogue. And I think we will find that during that period, maybe some information might come to light that is important, or people might feel like that they really do want to get to the truth, because that's what Jupiter does. He's other than the pure intelligence of Mercury, he really is a wisdom seeker, a truth seeker. So that's
just bringing clarity, coherence, and I suppose new perspectives as well.
Yeah, and also I'm just looking at the chart here. Jupiter, at the moment anyway, he's in Mrigashira nakshatra, and that is also the seeker. That's the seeking nakshatra, the searching star, and it's ruled by the moon, and it's really very curious as well. It's seeking truth again, so it's another bit of confluence.
And of course, Gemini is a Dvishvabhava house too, and the Dvishvabhava houses are what we'd know as jewel houses. And I don't know if you're feeling this as well, but there's a restlessness to the mind, like a real curiosity and a restlessness that we can take advantage of here, to get out of stuck patterns of thinking.
Yeah.
It might mean that you wake up in the middle of the night with your mind racing.
It could well be, absolutely. It could well be, because it's like this spiritual butterfly or something, that we hop from one thing to another, even though it's beautiful and truthful and spiritual, but that can happen with a energy like that, maybe. Or other, I think that one aspect of that is maybe some ideas are suddenly like there's a light being switched on, and it's a feeling of, oh, now I know. But it can also be, this, oh, now I know. Oh, no, I don't. Oh, this the other one, the other thing that I know. And so,
or now I know, but there's a reluctance to act or to change based on what you just realize. It's like the head and the heart, isn't it? Because there's a pull here at the moment. Venus in this fiery place is all about the heart, and if you were to go that way, you would just follow your desires and be really impulsive, and then the head is probably saying, oh, let's hold on here, let's count to 5, let's see, is this the right thing to do?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it's definitely a very, very interesting time. And of course, it always depends on each chart and what ascendant each chart has, so which house it all falls into.
Certainly. I mean, if this is happening, if Venus in Aries is your 7th house, well, that's going to be relationships.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we could look at all the other houses and how it might play out. And of course, that's why speaking in a general way is really interesting. But to have your chart and to translate this information upon your birth chart makes it the experience unique to you, and how it's going to manifest, particularly in your life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a quote from Marianne.
Oh, do you? Oh, lovely. Yeah, let's hear a quote from Marianne, our favorite.
And it's a remedy. So if there are remedies in Jyotish, we've done a podcast on this, but just in terms of remedy, and I think this has been a very balanced conversation, because we're saying, and I particularly for me, a lot of this is happening in my 8th house of transformation. A lot is changing, and that can be difficult. And we can see what's going on in the world. You can't maybe not get involved in politics, but you're certainly aware of the suffering in the world at the moment. And so it says, she recommends to keep your gaze firmly fixed upon the timeless realm. This is the best remedy for worldly despair. This too shall pass.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful sentence, a wonderful affirmation, and it really sounds like Marianne, doesn't it? It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's so simple as well. If we just remember that, and it all shall pass. Everything is moving through. That's a big lesson, I think, as well. Anyway, that Jyotish or astrology in general can give us is that, these planets are moving continuously. Nothing ever stops. So if it's in a wonderful place, it will move away from there. If it's in a really bad and difficult place, it will move away from there. So, yeah.
You might be feeling this dynamic energy and feeling so excited. Like this agitation can feel very exciting. It's tingly. It's like, and there's a courageousness to Mars that, that will absolutely, I mean, if you think about the commander-in-chief standing in front of that army, directing all of that power, for potentially for good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And do you know what? There's another, with Mars in K2, the spiritual aspect of that, the karmic warrior kind of, spiritual warrior, is also reflected a little bit in Saturn in Pisces, because Saturn in Pisces is also about taking responsibility spiritually. It's really about, because Pisces is the sign of liberation. It's the moksha sign. And Saturn takes that serious. Yeah, he really he has the discipline as well to face whatever needs to be faced and liberate himself from whatever it is that needs to be. It's usually our own inner demons, isn't it? When we talk about liberation, what does that really mean? It's usually our own inner demons, our old trauma that might have happened in this life or another, or any conditioned belief systems, negative belief systems that we might have. All of that, we have to free ourselves from, liberate ourselves from. And Saturn is really asking us to do that, to do the work for that as well, because that takes work. It's not just, sitting there and singing Om and then everything will be good. But it's like you said earlier so beautifully, it's like, being in the world, and the world is the mirror for us, but we have to then come into action. That's what karma means, doesn't it? It's like, it's to take action, to take responsibility for your own happiness and for your own liberation, to liberate yourself from that. And that's what Saturn does there as well.
Yes, said that so perfectly. I can't add to that. That is just perfect.
Yeah, so all of these together, all of these planets together, they are just right now, I think, really interesting and keep moving. And I'm not quite sure, maybe you have the timelines a little bit more. I'm not quite sure of how long all this will take, but it will be quite a while until...
It will be quite a while. I mean, yeah, it will take, the slower moving planets certainly will take a year to move, and Saturn even more so. But I suppose it's nice to remember that all of this is playing out all of the time. We're sitting here talking about it. But at any time, we could take a snapshot of what transits are happening, and we could explore them in our chart. We just decided today that this is a great opportunity to talk about some major shifts. But this is a path we're on, and it's never easy, and that's the beauty of it. There's so much potential for spiritual growth, because when we look at a chart and when we approach a chart in Vedic astrology and a life in Vedic astrology, it's very much the path of spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
And this is certainly opportunity for this spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
The grit that forms the pearl, perhaps, or the passion that sparks something in you, just to break the chains of something and just recreate yourself, and just, exactly. Are you feeling that too?
Yeah, absolutely. And really, that's, I think, the advice I would give to people as well, people who might feel that tension, that pull into a different direction, and ask yourself as well, is that direction the direction closer to my inner truth? And if it is, then take a step toward it. And it doesn't have to be a leap. It can be a small step. It can be, Saturn is still there as well. Saturn doesn't allow big leaps, big kind of without responsibility and being organized about it and all of that. So we can organize ourselves and create a plan of change, of transformation, and then go that path step by step. But the thing about things like Ketu or Pisces or any of the aspects that create loss, maybe, or the 12th house, or anything that has to do with letting go, it's that if we let something go on purpose, it's not so bad, isn't it? If we clear out our home, or if we give away some old clothes, or if we have a nice gift for someone, or donate something to charity, it feels good, doesn't it? It feels really good.
It does feel good. And also we can let go of the control of a situation, because ultimately this is coming back to yoga philosophy. This is what it's all about. If your happiness is determined by you trying to control your external circumstances, you are going to suffer, because you cannot control people around you. Maybe you have a certain amount of control over your mind and your inner world.
Yeah.
But if you are placing all of your hope for happiness upon transient things, including people around you, that is not secure. There's no space in this for santosha, which is contentment.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And that's what the yoga teachings are telling us all the time, that if we try to hold on to things that are going to be changing anyway, that's what causes suffering. And when those planets are giving us the energy of letting go, what causes us suffering is not the letting go, but it's the resistance to it. So if we manage to work with that resistance and maybe ask ourselves as well, why do I even have that resistance? Because usually it's because there is some strange belief that we hold onto in our unconscious mind. Maybe we have a belief that we can't survive without that, or we, whatever it is. But it's a good opportunity then to work with that resistance and see if we can release it and let it go. And that's ultimately very liberating then.
It's very liberating. And just to say that, we've talked about Venus in terms of being in Aries and desire, but, ultimately it is the planet of love and compassion. And there's divine grace in that. That's beautiful. So if your letting go is heart-led, it can only be a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Aoife.
Well, thank you. It's so nice to have this conversation. Even if we weren't recording it, it would have.
I think we couldn't stay away from it for too long.
Yeah.
We'll meet again soon. I think we might do this once a month, or when there's interesting transits or moon phases happening. I think we'll meet and talk.
I'd love that. There's so much opportunity for more discussion here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon. You were listening to a podcast by the Little School of Happiness. For more information, please go to sandrahayes.eu, or if you are in Germany, sandrahayes.de.